the middle part, a long, narrow room, that had once been a veranda, and that led to the new big dining room, to await the summons to the meal. Here Deb, beautiful in limp white silk that showed up the lovely carmine of her cheeks, came forward to welcome the returned guest with an eager warmth that sadly misled him. He sat down to his dinner, a few minutes later, with his head in a whirl and his appetite nowhere. As an effect of that cordial pressure of the hand, those tender eyes, and that deep-hued blush upon him. Then, as he came to himself, there crept into his mind a sense that things had been happening while he was away. All the eyes around the table seemed continually to turn either towards Deb, who, still flushed and bestowing absent-minded smiles upon anybody and anything, was certainly different from her usual stately self, or upon Claud Dalzell, who sat beside her, and seemed to have appropriated some of her lost dignity, or upon Mr Pennycuick, who fumbled oddly with carving knife and gravy spoon, and gave other evidences, Guthrie thought, of having been upset and shaken. The young man was still fumbling himself for light upon these mysteries, when they were dispelled by a shock that for the moment stunned him. Mr Pennycuick called for a certain brand of wine long famous at his board. When it came, and the bottles were being sent round, he stood up, with a trembling goblet in his hand. The eyes round the table dropped, all but Guthrie's, which stared at the old man. "There's no time like the present," began the host, "if a thing has to be done." He repeated this strange and embarrassing introductory remark, and then spent some time in clearing his throat and blowing his nose, and trying to wipe up the wine he was shaking over. When the fidgets had seized upon the whole company, he rushed his fence. "Ahem! I must ask you, my friends, to fill your glasses in honour of an event that has just transpired in our midst, that I am sure will interest you all. That, in short, my dear daughter Deborah, and the man of her choice, who knows, I hope, what a lucky dog he is." "He does," Claud interjected, and there was eager dumb show all round the table, everyone, again excepting Guthrie, leaning forward to cast wreathed smiles at the seated couple. "I have given my consent," said Mr Pennycuick. "I have given my consent. My daughter shall be happy in her own way, and I hope he'll see to it that she gets all she bargains for. He is the son of my oldest friend, a man that was better than a brother to me, the whitest, straightest, but there's no words to say what he was. Only the son of such a man. Anybody with Billy Dalzell's blood in him ought to be, if he isn't." "He is," sang Deb, in her rich, ringing voice. "Oh, please don't say any more, father." "Well, my dear, I know I am no hand at speech making, but I can wish you luck, both of you, and I do. And I want our friends here, old friends of the family, to do the same. Good wishes mayn't bring good fortune, but for all we know they may do something towards it. And anyway, she may as well have all her chances. Ladies and gentlemen, long life and happiness to Deborah Pennycuick and her husband that is to be." A general turmoil broke out. Glass clinkings, cheers, handshakings, kissings, with a sob or two from the overwrought. And Guthrie, with no heart upon his sleeve, bowed and drank with the rest. When the demonstration was over, and the company back in its chairs, Dalzell was left standing. His bride-elect sat beside him, her elbow on the table, her face shaded by her hand. "On behalf of my dear wife that is to be," said Claud, with a quiet mastery of himself, that was in striking contrast to the old man's agitation, and as a grateful duty of my own, I beg to thank you all, and especially Mr Pennycuick, for this great kindness, for your generous sympathy with us in our present happiness. Mr Pennycuick seems to have a doubt, natural to anyone in the circumstances, but inevitable in a father, the father of such a daughter, as to my being qualified to appreciate the gift he has just bestowed upon me. I can assure him, and all of you, that I am overwhelmed with the sense of my good fortune, and of my unworthiness of it. I am unworthy, I admit it, but it shall be the business of my life to correct that fault, if it is a fault, and not merely a misfortune that I cannot help. To the best of my power, I will prove, by deeds, not words, that I do know her value." Deb's hand under the table here stole towards his that hung at his side, and he stood holding it until he finished speaking. "Fortune has been kind in granting me the means to surround her with material comfort, to give so rare a jewel the setting appropriate to it. For the rest, I must trust to her generosity. I feel quite safe in trusting to it. We have known each other, I believe we have loved each other, from childhood. I hope Mr Pennycuick will take that as some guarantee that his little misgivings are unnecessary." The orator twisted his moustache, and glanced down at the bowed head beside him. "She seems to be a little taken aback by my suddenness of this public announcement, but I can say that it does not come a moment too soon for me. Mr Pennycuick has made me a proud man. I glory in my position as his daughter's affianced husband. I wish to parade it as openly as possible. However, to spare her, I will say no more just now. Ladies and gentlemen," bowing to right and left, "I thank you again." He sat down amid thunders of applause, and leaning back in his chair, he looked straight and full at Guthrie Carey. Guthrie Carey, erect, calm as a stone image, returned the look steadily. There was absolutely no expression in his eyes. Chapter 7.